Today we're going to look at one of those once you see it, you can't unsee it design issues that I see on a lot of websites. So take a look at this example here. This is a testimonial block that I pulled from Tailwind Plus and customized a little bit just for this video. You'll see we're doing what I call this sort of baseball card protector UI pattern, where we've got the image and we've got this sort of container around it with sort of a glassy background and rounded corners and stuff like that. The thing I want you to pay attention to is the rounded corners at the top here. So I've exaggerated this to make it obvious, but it should be clear to you here that the border radius here and the border radius here, they just kind of feel off when used in conjunction with each other. So if you look at the implementation, the outer border radius right now is set to 4XL, and the inner border radius on the image is also set to 4XL. So first thing here, whenever you have something nested inside something else, you definitely don't want to use the same border radius or it's going to look wrong the way it does here. But what I see a lot of people do to try and solve this problem is just sort of iterate their way through the available border radiuses in Tailwind or eyeball it. And they might just try 3XL and think, yeah, I mean, that looks pretty good. Is 2XL better? No, 2XL isn't better, so I'm just gonna stick with 3XL. And to the untrained eye, I think this is pretty close. But let me explain to you the math behind concentric border radiuses like this so you understand what the value should be. The way that you're supposed to calculate the border radius of a nested item is to take the parent border radius, then subtract the padding, and that gives you the child border radius. So in this case, the parent border radius is 2 rem or 32 pixels. The padding is 0.75 rem or 12 pixels. So the nested border radius should be 20 pixels for it to be mathematically perfect. Right now though, we've got it set to 24 pixels, which is close, but not quite right. So let's look at a few different solutions for solving this. One thing you might do is just jump in here, use an arbitrary value and set it to 20 pixels. And yeah, now it looks correct. Couple issues with this. First of all, we're using the wrong units. Tailwind uses rem units for border radiuses and for padding by default. So instead of 20 pixels, what we really want here is, I guess, 1.25 rem. So this is a little bit better, right? At least now it's the same unit, and if someone zooms the font size on their browser and stuff, things are gonna scale appropriately. But I don't think it's really obvious where this number is coming from. We're not really being expressive about the fact that we're actually trying to do math here. So here's a small improvement that we can make here. Instead of just hard coding this value, we can use a calc expression here, and we can grab the 4XL border radius as our starting point, and we could subtract spacing 3, which is that padding value, and that should give us the same thing. And now we're being a lot more expressive. You can look at this code and see, okay, well, what's the border radius of this element? Okay, it's taking 4XL and subtracting spacing 3. And then you can look up here and you can sort of see where those come from. There's a 4XL here. Okay, so these must be linked together. They're probably meant to stay the same value. Same with this, P3, spacing 3. Okay, everything's kind of connected and makes sense. But if we go up here and change this to 3XL, now it's going to be broken again. You got to remember to come down here and update this to 3XL as well. Not a huge deal, but I think we can go one step further and make this even a little bit nicer. Check this out. I'm going to go up to this element here, and I'm going to define a couple CSS variables. So I'm going to say that the card radius is going to use that radius 4XL value. Let's turn on wrapping here so we can see all this. And then I'm also going to define the card padding to use the spacing 3 value. Now nothing should change here, right? But let's update our implementation here to reference these variables. So we'll change the padding to use the card padding value. We'll change the radius to use the card radius value. And then down here, we'll keep our calc expressions, but we'll update this to use card radius, and we'll update this to be var card padding. And now everything is truly linked. If we go up here and we change this radius to 3, everything just adapts. We change it to 2, it adapts. If we change the the padding to 2, everything adapts. If we change it to 4, it adapts. So now everything is actually properly connected together using these CSS variables, and it's impossible to make a mistake. We've captured all the appropriate math, everything right here in the code, and you've got this perfect border radius, looks perfect every time, can't screw it up.